Hey, what's up, champions? Welcome to Growth Mode. I'm your host, Donnie Bovine, and I've spent over 20 years in straight commission sales. I broke a lot of shit and sold millions of dollars along the way, trying to figure out how to grow a business and learn how to sell. Hanging out with me is my buddy Kevin Snow, a sales automation genius and the tactician of the sales process. And this dude has spent over 20 years in the sales game before he partnered up with me to change how the world does business development. Growth Mode is real world tips, funny anecdotes, and a whole lot of no bullshit tactics you can apply right now to your business. Let's go big and loud and have some fun. Kevin, what the fuck are we talking about today?
Hey, Donnie. So today I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, process.
Oh, fuck. Here we go.
Well, and I want to talk about why having a process is not a bad thing.
So, guys, I'm going to have Kevin take a lot of the lead on this episode. Here's why. I fucking hate process. I'm not a big systems guy, but I will tell you without a doubt that our business could not function. My sales would not be at where they're at. My success I've had through over the years would not be done without systems and processes. With systems, you're completely freaking able to figure out what's working, what's not working, and how to grow, how to scale, and do everything you freaking do. They just bore the shit out of me. I'm rather somebody go tackle that, take that on, build that, let's get here and just go. But I have found, and as Kevin often reminds me, and his favorite phrase is, Donnie, not everybody's like you. And I'm sure you're going to fucking hear it on these podcasts. But that's the thing. Without systems and processes, you cannot scale and grow your business.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
Don't worry, it's G-rated. Why do you think systems allow you to scale your business faster?
Because they're repeatable, they're duplicatable, and you can teach somebody else how to freaking do it.
Exactly. And that's the big thing why I like processes, because I want to do things as efficiently as possible. You and I both know we don't have time to waste on extraneous steps and things that aren't actually going to generate revenue or help move a conversation forward. Exactly. And that's really the strength with processes, is that you're able to actually, if you're doing everything the same, and granted, I will completely agree that every sale conversation you have is not the same, but there's going to be general similarities between all of them. If you're following the same general process, you can test what works and what's not working. And that's the big thing for me as an automation guy, is that we can go in and do that split testing every step of the way and do that really fine tuning that's going to get you percentage points in your closing ratio.
Yeah, no, I like it. For me, my struggle is I'm so in the moment with everything that I do, right? That if I have to stop and go, okay, what's the next step? Then it slows everything down. But another thing that I've always loved that you've been able to help me do is help put processes in place that function right along with the way that I sell.
Yep.
I do think your sales call should have a very systematic approach to it, but it should never not be you in that system. So it's about learning the processes, the systems, the things that need to be done to where you're this relaxed, truly authentic,
Yep.
showing up as you. I think the bad side of processes is when you first try and use them and you haven't broken anything yet, so you don't know what works, what doesn't work. It's going to make you look clunky as fuck.
And what usually happens, and I'm never going to go in and tell someone, hey, here's the process you need to use.
Right.
But what happens with businesses is they don't create their process. They try and find an easy button,
Yes.
and they grab someone else's process, and it's not designed around them.
Yeah, totally.
So the process I use with you and when we build things out for Success Champions is completely different than I would use for a different influencer, coach, personality type person.
Yeah,
Because
one of me in this world is fucking plenty.
yeah, definitely. But the process, the cool thing about processes is, and we were both in the Army, so you, or I'm
Whoa,
sorry, you were in the
whoa,
Marines.
whoa,
I
whoa.
meant to
Just
say
so
we were
everybody
both in the
knows, Army
service.
stands for ain't ready to be a Marine yet.
Shit. We're the ones that have to come in and fix everything that you broke. All right, so we're both in the services, and we learn stuff via process. Everything in the military is a process, and it's a step way to do it. And one of the reasons why is because once you've learned it, it becomes ingrained. So you and I both could probably field strip an M4 with our eyes closed.
Well, you
Because
say
we learned the
M4, but
process.
you may have went in the military later than I did, but I was in years before you, so
This
I
is
came out with
true.
the M16A2.
All right.
I mean, so yeah, I could probably do an M4, but I'm not going to bet on
It's
it.
same mechanics. I'm pretty sure you'll be all right. But
Yeah.
but it's because we learned a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
And the same is true with sales, is you learn your process and you've tweaked it so it fits your personality. You don't have to think about what comes next because you understand and you know, and it just becomes a natural part of how you sell.
Yeah, and you know, it was funny as I was talking to a group of people this morning, and I love asking these people, you know, what's your sales process? If I stand in front of the room, I'm like, okay, everybody write down your sales process. And I'll get like one or two people to start writing. Everybody else has got this like deer in the headlight looks, right? They've
Yep.
never thought about their fucking processes. And I'm like, guys, so I'll always ask, I'm like, okay, for you that have processes, why? And it's the same thing. They're always going to come back because you always know you are, you know the next step, you know the next move. And everybody sitting there will immediately go, well, no shit, I should have a process. But they've never just gone through it. So I mean, one of the things is if you're listening right now, I want you 100% to think about how do you start the sales call, right? How do you get to the middle part and how do you finish the sales call? That's one portion of it. Where Kevin's real badassery comes into play with mechanics. Now he's fucking good on the sales call too. I don't want to take away from that. But the real mechanics come when you can automate the front end of getting to that fucking sales call all the way through the process. But at the same token, you ask people what's their front end automation, what systems and how do they sell to get to that sales call? They're like, oh, I do some reach outs on LinkedIn. You know?
My favorite question when I'm working with a client and helping them document a sales process and actually build out how it flows is, what is the one thing that you tell a client, and when you say it, you can see the lights go off in their eyes because they now get it?
Oh, mine is always what's your favorite rum? Oh, no, that's not what you're
but it's funny when I ask that question, people are like, I don't know. I've never paid attention to what I say before. And that is a key part of that sales process is, what am I saying? When am I saying it? And even if you want to get really granular, how am I saying it to them?
Right. And I think it's key. I think if most people would literally sit down and look at the different stages of their overall sales process, because, and I know we're staying heavily in the sales game, but I think a key portion of growing your business and scaling is understanding this process. Yeah, and Kevin, you get this too. I mean, motherfuckers walk up to me all the time and they're like, I really am at the point where I don't want to do sales. I'm just going to outsource that sales, right? I'm going to hire somebody else to do it. And you're laughing because that's I start laughing every fucking time say it.
We just had this conversation with someone.
Guys, here's the thing. You can't outsource your sales processes, your systems, how the sales calls, really all that, until you fucking know how to do it yourself. And the reason being is you can't teach somebody else how to be successful with it. Right. So if you can't fucking sell, how the hell do you hold somebody else accountable? Because what's going to happen is they're going to come to you and go, hey, I was talking to this prospect and they said this, what should I do next? And you're going to be like, I have no idea. figure it out. That's your job.
So I completely agree, because what everyone thinks when they're at that stage, especially if it's their first time in business on their own, is they think sales is sales.
Yeah.
And that, well, you were a number one producer at this company with this product, you should be able to come in and sell our products with no issue at all. Well, I was number one with this product for this company because they gave me 2 months of training and taught me a very detailed process, allowed me to go out and just focus on sales. I didn't have to figure anything out.
Well, and anytime somebody comes from one company as like the number one sales rep, the thing that I always want to know is how long were they with that company to get to number one? And the reason being, if they went from 0 to number one within that first year, they've got some fucking skill sets, right? They can really freaking sell. If they were number one because they've been with the company for 20 years, because look, the number one sales guy is not going to stay with a company for 20 years. They're
Nope.
either going to peel off and go someplace else or launch their own fucking company. That's just out of it. So if they're number one because they've been there 20 years, they're not there because they're a badass salesperson. They're there because they hung off long enough through osmosis and through freaking, natural scaling of businesses, grew with their clients that they got early on. And, I remember a guy that I trained. He was the number 2 rep for this very large commercial printing company, and he sold $4 or $5 million every year. The number 1 rep was selling 6, and the next closest rep to him was selling 2. And I remember asking this guy who was selling $4 or $5 million a year, he was getting close to his 60s. I said, what would happen if this company closed right now? What would you do? And he didn't even hesitate. He said, retire. He goes, I wouldn't do it all again. I wouldn't go try and build from zero again. He goes, I would just retire. And I think, what people think about that is, and even with that guy, he'd never documented a sales process, so he couldn't even teach what he's done to somebody else. And that's where we're getting to a lot of this is you've got to have these systems and processes in play so somebody else can step in the role and do the things. Because as business owners, Kevin and I, a lot of our biggest responsibility is being fucking out front, being the face of the company. And we can't do that if we don't have the right systems and processes in place.
So we've been talking a lot about sales systems, but they're just as important, and maybe sometimes even more important, in the rest of your business too. So I don't want to.
Well, because I'm laughing because Kevin's often will tell me, he's like, Donnie, we have a process for that. I'm like, oh fuck. We've set up Asana. We've been working with that program, and as we launch all these, different chapters and everything else, there's systems and processes. And I'm horrible. I'm like, Kevin, okay, you're going to run this particular meeting. I'm going to sit back, keep my mouth shut, and I'll let you go through the processes. And then we'll start the meeting with like all the chapter presidents. And the first thing I fucking do is step in and take over the meeting. And you can see Kevin going, and I can almost see the smoke coming out of his ears. We've got a fucking process for this.
Well, and I'm working with a client right now where we're actually automating and documenting their hiring and onboarding process. Nice. So, and that's something else I've seen with businesses when they hire. It's like, well, I just need to do some interviews. Well, no, there's a little bit more to it. That is a huge part of it. But, how are you vetting? How are you doing it? How are you moving them through so that you aren't wasting hundreds of hours in this interview process to find someone who either says they're going to take the job, but then doesn't show up, or starts and then 2 weeks later quits, and now you're back doing it again.
Yeah, and I love that. And you can automate a lot of your accounting processes. I mean, literally, in our company, we don't have to track down money or chase the dollar because that whole system is automated, all the way through. So you can automate your finances, your operations, your hiring. Literally, it's funny is when I was doing sales training, I would, stand in front of a bunch of CEOs. I'm like, cool. What's your operations process? Cool. What's your accounting process? And they would have all these processes, but then you go, what's your sales process? And they look at you deer in the headlight, So
exactly.
Literally your entire company can be done in systems and processes, and just know you're going to have a guy like me. And you need a guy like me that's crazy as fuck out front that's going to come in and be like, oh, we got a process and plow through it. And drive everybody freaking nuts.
So I like to tell people processes are there to serve 2 purposes. They're there to save you time and to keep you from making fucked up mistakes.
Right. So, well, And in this episode, guys, we dove into processes, why you got to have them. Even a guy like me that doesn't like to follow rule books, I understand the beauty behind having a processes and the beauty to really set your business up to scale. In later episodes, we're going to absolutely talk about different systems and processes. We'll walk you through very specific, sales processes, operational, probably hiring processes, and systems and things you can use. But our goal was to really get you guys to start thinking about what are the systems and processes that I should be having in my business? Why should I have them? And how do I apply it and scale and grow them moving forward? So as always, guys, if you got any freaking brilliance out of this, if you got something that you were like, dude, this was just what I needed to hear today, do me a favor and tell one other person about this podcast. Teach them how to subscribe to the show. Teach them how to freaking, get over here and hang out with us. Subscribers are freaking everything in the podcast and YouTube world. So would love to see more of you guys hanging out. I appreciate you guys. Keep fucking rocking and rolling. And as always, go blow some shit up and go big and loud.